Welcome to Oromo Media Network's English News Update, broadcasting to you live. Today is Sunday, the 20th of September 2020. My name is Toltu Tufa with technician Adil Usman. Today's bulletin is headlined with the following reports. Terrorism charges. Oromo opposition leaders Bekele Gerba and Jawar Mohammed face new charges with 22 other people almost 100 days after their initial arrest. Charged in absentia. The Ethiopian government charges citizens from Australia and North America for inciting violence. Ethiopia's Ministry of Health claims COVID-19 is no longer a threat to federal elections. New banknotes cause friction for Ethiopians, and government restrictions are proposed for recha 2020. And now for today's news. New terrorism charges. Ethiopia has charged its most prominent opposition figure, Jawar Mohammed, and a total of 24 people with terrorism-related offences, telecom fraud and other crimes, Ethiopia's Attorney General's office announced yesterday. The fresh charges laid against prominent Oromo opposition leaders including Hamza Borana, Bekele Gerba and Jawar Mohammed could result in life imprisonment for the men if found guilty by the courts. The 24 men have been charged with breaching Ethiopian Anti-Terrorism Law Proclamation 1176/2012. It should be noted that these additional charges are based on exactly the same law Mr. Abiy Ahmed promised to remove when he came to power back in 2018. At the time, Abiy Ahmed recognized the draconian nature of Proclamation number 1176/2012. He acknowledged the law was used by the old government leadership to attack voices of opposition and dissent. Ironically, the same laws Abiy promised to remove are the very laws his government is currently using against prominent opposition leaders. In an opinion piece on this week's Economist media, Abiy Ahmed stated people opposed to his reforms for Ethiopia were viewed by him as harvesting seeds of inter-ethnic, inter-religious division and hatred. Human rights groups have criticized the time that it has taken for the new charges to be brought against the 24 men. Critics argue the additional allegations have come after almost 100 days of detention since July 2020 for what has been widely condemned by critics as trumped-up charges during a security force crackdown. The charges now relate to deadly violence which erupted in parts of Finfinne's capital city and parts of Oromia that authorities claim killed over 180 people after the assassination of prominent Oromo singer and icon Hachalu Hundessa in July this year. The accused are all expected to face court tomorrow. One of Jawar's lawyers, Mr. Baisa, stated his astonishment over the charges when he spoke with the media. Mr. Baisa questioned the ethical irresponsibility of the government, but refrained from making comments on the case as further details are expected during the court appearance on Monday. It appears the legal team were alerted to the charges after reading the official announcement on social media. Critics continue to accuse the Ethiopian ruling leader of seeking excuses to lock up those who oppose his government. Human rights groups warn that such arrests indicate Abiy's political reforms are slipping. Rather than deny human rights abuses, Abiy Ahmed responded in The Economist by acknowledging the alleged abuses by security forces during bouts of unrest. He stated that the security reforms take time, and given the institutions that Ethiopia has inherited, there is a realization that law enforcement activities entail a risk of human rights violations and abuse. Charged in absentia. Saturday's charges revealed by the Attorney General's office also revealed that Oromo renowned activists and lawyers including Dr. Tsagaya Ararsa and Dr. Berhane Meskel Abebisenye and Mr. Dejene Gutama were charged in absentia with inciting violence. The three men, who currently live abroad in Australia and North America, are expected to attend Ethiopian courts on Monday morning. Dr. Ararsa, a prominent legal scholar specializing in the Constitution of Ethiopia, has been a long-time and fierce critic of the current government's movement. Dr. Berhane Meskel is one of America's ex-Consular Generals of Ethiopia, who once, despite holding a senior government position, also critiqued the ruling party's ability to run a democratic nation. Mr. Dejene Gutama is the current editor-in-chief for the Oromo Media Network. His post was shut down by the government 2 months ago in Ethiopia. All of these men, among others, have been charged with acts of terrorism. Charging people in absentia is not a new tradition in Ethiopia. The previous EPRDF ruling party also used similar charges against Oromo Media Network and Jawar Mohammed, who at the time was the director for Oromo Media Network. Each accused individual has emphatically denied government accusations. Dr. Ararsa contends Abiy Ahmed is the #1 security threat in the extremely volatile region within the Horn of Africa. Dr. Ararsa argues that since Abiy Ahmed has come to power, peace has been suspended and Ethiopia has been driven into chaos by moving deeper and deeper into modes of crises. Dr. Ararsa has responded to calls for his arrest by issuing a statement directly towards the ruler of Ethiopia, labeling Abiy's actions against Dr. Ararsa as shameless. Mr. Dejene Gutama continues to work with Oromo Media Network International as the editor-in-chief, and Dr. Berhane Meskel has made statements in response to the Ethiopian government's call for his arrest. Dr. Berhane Meskel suggests that the hope of stabilizing, democratizing and transitioning Ethiopia from its institutionalized racist past to a nation based on equality, justice and equity has failed. New Ethiopian banknotes spark further controversy. The Ethiopian government has unveiled a new set of banknotes expected to assist authorities to curb crimes, including cash hoarding, illegal trade, and illicit financial flows. The move is also expected to boost the liquidity of banks struggling to cope with Ethiopia's cash-based economy. In a statement released via Twitter, the country's ruling party leader announced the unveiling of the new notes for the 10, 50 and 100 denominations with the introduction of a new 200 birr note. Ethiopian citizens are expected to replace their old notes within 3 months as the government plans to spend around United States $97 million, which is approximately 3.6 billion Ethiopian birr, by printing the new notes. Economists based in Ethiopia acknowledge that while changing the currency is costly and very expensive, introducing new denominations is a step in the right direction. Local banks have also long called for a change in currency via Ethiopia's Bankers Association. They note that more than 113 billion Ethiopian birr lives outside the formal banking system. Most transactions in Ethiopia are still cash-based because Ethiopia's informal sector has a substantial share of the economy. To get around this, the National Bank introduced limits on cash withdrawals as of last month. To reduce cash-based transactions, the national banks support the introduction of the new bills. Critics, however, including economists, have warned that if the new currency is mishandled, then market chaos may untrigger certainty as citizens scramble to swap their notes before the 3-month deadline. Economists critical of the new change include Ayele Galan, who has been vocal about Ethiopia's rationale for the change. Criticisms include that the introduction of the new currency is to divert attention of the public and the international community away from domestic political crises and to appease his party of his decision to crush the northern Tigray region from an economic perspective for pursuing elections without federal approval. The criticism levelled at the new currency suggests that rather than combat corruption by changing the currency, the Ethiopian ruling party should consider investigating the reported US $2.5 billion that annually and illegally flows out of Ethiopia since 2004. Accordingly, critics suggest that following up missing money may in fact incriminate current members of the ruling party who have laundered money into foreign bank accounts. Citizens looted by government authorities. Escalating reports of robberies committed by Ethiopia's defense and police forces have continued unabated following the blessing of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. On national television, the leader of the ruling party permitted security forces to arbitrarily confiscate money exceeding 1.5 million Ethiopian birr if discovered at individuals' disposals. The Prime Minister made this statement while addressing his cabinet on the country's new currency printed by the country. Abiy Ahmed has instructed security members to confiscate money found at households and to keep the extra appropriated money for themselves, labelling it as extra money. During a time where the government is having difficulty in paying salaries to the army, this instruction has effectively licensed the army to rob the citizens of the country with the permission of the government. On social media, members of the defense and the police force were witnessed boasting undignified ways of amassing money from civilians. Those robbed of their wealth have reported that security forces were engaged in arbitrary house searches and pulling over passengers on public transport to confiscate money, regardless of the amounts being held by individuals. Locals have equated the actions to highway robbery from institutions tasked with protecting the public. Security forces are believed to be targeting areas of cash crop relating to stimulant production and export, including the Awade town of Eastern Hararge in Oromo. Ethiopia's Ministry of Health states COVID-19 no longer a threat to elections. Earlier this week, the Ethiopian Parliament received a report stating that the coronavirus pandemic is no longer a threat to conduct elections. Previously, the Ethiopian Parliament extended the term limits of both the federal and regional state powers until Ethiopia's deferred elections, citing COVID-19 concerns. The original plan was to call for the federal elections between 9 and 12 months following announcements by the Ministry of Health, the Ethiopian Public Health Institute, as well as members of the science community who would collectively decide whether the COVID-19 pandemic was no longer a threat to public health. The original plan to postpone the elections was highly contested, and Abiy Ahmed's appointment of the Council of Constitutional Inquiry, known as the CCI, was rejected by prominent opposition parties, including the Oromo Federalist Congress Party and the Oromo Liberation Front Party. Currently, observers are debating whether the Ethiopian government is being forced to change its decision, given the fact that the Tigray region has successfully conducted state-level elections. The safety and physical distancing precautions taken by the Tigray region was also an exemplary testimony that COVID-19 cannot be a reason to delay democracy. Government restrictions are proposed for the Oromo Thanksgiving Recha 2020. Members of the Oromo public are rejecting a proposal restriction on Recha 2020 celebrations in Oromia this year. The Gada Assembly of the Tulama decided the Oromo Thanksgiving Ceremony Festival, known as Recha, was to take place next month on October 3rd and 4th in Bishoftu and Finfinne respectively. Pressures are mounting by government-owned media, which are suggesting that recha participants should be invited by government authorities instead of attending freely. The government-owned media outlets are arguing that the number of participants should be limited because of COVID-19 concerns. However, it has been protested that COVID-19 cannot be a reason to limit public attendance when preventative steps can be applied through a well-trained Gada group who have guided recha events in the past years, known as Folle Gada. The Folle group has a positive track record of hosting recha celebrations. They possess over 20,000 volunteer adult and youth members who successfully guided the 2017, 2018 and 2019 recha ceremonies. Oromo fans of the recha ceremony reached out to Oromia Media Network to state that the Thanksgiving event is an open space ceremony where physical distancing measures may be controlled and attendees may be guided to follow protective steps. Locals have added that any excuse by the government that cite COVID-19 as a pretext restrict the Oromo people and would aim to stifle potential grievances of the attendees. According to locals, recha is a peaceful annual ceremony where people are expected to offer thanks to God and should not be prevented. In other developments, the Oromo fathers, known as the Abba Gada, have received a site plan for recha celebrations in Finfinne from the city mayor. This includes a location to be permanently preserved for the recha celebrations and other related activities. It should be noted that Finfinne Thanksgiving celebrations were resumed in 2019 at the capital city of Oromia for the first time after more than a 150-year ban was imposed on Oromos by the Ethiopian authorities. This year's festivities are cautiously anticipated given the hotly contested political situation that continues to unfold in Ethiopia. That's all the news for now. An English news broadcast will return to you live on Oromia Media Network. But right now, stay tuned for further broadcasts on OMN. Until we meet again, my name is Tultu Tufa with technician Adil Osman. Take care, stay safe, and goodbye.